What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Undead Survivor. Here today I have a very special build tutorial. This is just something that I've been looking forward to for a very long time. If you know my story, I have been shooting bows for a very long time, since I was just a little guy. It teaches you a lot about skill, discipline, and patience. Most of my life I have been making bolts and arrows and owning quite a few of them. The problem is I don't have a quiver. You might be asking yourself, wait a minute, Undead, yes you do. You have like 3 quivers. You use them on your crossbows. Yes, I do, but I actually don't own a back quiver for arrows. But I picked up this really nice recurve bow with my brother and his wife at the Caesars Creek flea market before it shut down. Once I purchased it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to get myself a quiver. Instead of just buying one, you guys know me, I actually prefer to build my own stuff. I mean, come on, it's me. I took some inspiration from Green Arrow and Hawkeye and how they have those fancy quivers. I wanted mine to be a little more unique, a little bit of undead in there. So I went ahead and sketched this up, and I realized that I wanted my quiver to be tactical, sturdy. I want it to be used for combat use. I had this really old harness that I've had since I was like 12, 13 years old, and I've kept it ever since. But a couple of months ago, I went to go visit my grandpa, and he actually gave me these really cool shipping cylinders. So I went ahead and took these items together and made the coolest project, in my opinion. I'm really blown away of how beautiful this came out. And the more and more I kept working on it, the more ideas I have for it. So we'll probably see some updated videos later on in the future. So I came up with this little gizmo right here. It looks almost like a backpack. It's about 3 inches wide, enough to hold as many arrows as possible. I just didn't like the shape of it. It just didn't seem right to me, and it was made out of poster board and fabric. It had to be a little more sturdy. Who knows, if you guys are still interested in this thing, I'll probably just give it in a giveaway. With that being said, let's get to the video. Okay guys, let's go ahead and start off with the base of our quiver. As you can see, they're both uneven, one being 26 inches, one being 24 inches. Before I cut the cylinders into perfect size, I went ahead and did my research on what was the measurements for an actual quiver. And the longest quiver made in production is actually 22 inches. And for all of you who don't know, that I'm actually 6'2", so I went ahead and just decided to go 22 inches. Once I had both cylinders marked down for 22 inches, I used masking tape to help me mark out my measurements and took off a couple inches off both cylinders. Once you have your cylinders into perfect measurement, go ahead and punch holes on each side to make sure that they're even and connected together. I came up with the idea of using my rivet gun to stick them together, but unfortunately afterwards I realized that my gun would not fit through the cylinder, so I had to come up with a different process. I wasn't too happy, but I went ahead and decided to just use hex nuts and bolts like I usually do. Once I had the cylinders connected, I just went ahead and used some duct tape and connect them together for support. The next step, I went ahead and threw the cylinders to the side and started working on the bottom. I took the remaining cylinder that I cut off earlier and used it as a template for the foam. I went ahead and cut out 2 of them for each cylinder to put on the bottom, so that way the arrows would not fly out. Once you put the craft foam into place, go ahead and duct tape it up on the bottom. Now this isn't exactly the final touch, but this is to help keep it strong. Now if you're not completely satisfied with the amount of duct tape that's put onto there, go ahead and throw on a couple more layers. Once I was done using the duct tape, I went ahead and used a poster board for the outer layer of the cylinders. The exact width of this poster board was 22 inches, which was perfect. If you decide to do the same process as I'm doing in this video, make sure that you're pulling the poster board really tight as possible to make sure that the quiver is really sturdy and not flimsy. After I taped up the poster board to the cylinders, I went back to the craft foam and I went ahead and traced out the bottom of our cylinders. I really wanted this build to be very sturdy, so I just went ahead and added a second layer of craft foam for the bottom. Instead of using duct tape to connect the foams together, I just went ahead and used this E6000 adhesive that works perfectly in all my past builds. I really do love using this adhesive. It only takes like an hour, maybe a half an hour just for it to dry. While the adhesive was doing its job, I went ahead and threw in these 2 dowel rods in each cylinder and taped up the bottom with electrical tape. After we complete the body of our quiver, it's time to give it some color. I picked up this 2-yard denim fabric out of Walmart to help give it that fabric texture. While I grabbed the fabric, I went ahead and picked up more of that E6000 adhesive that I've been using. We'll be using the adhesive to glue all around the surface of our quiver. And once that's done, go ahead and start wrapping around the entire quiver with the fabric. And if you look real closely, you can see that I'm flattening out the fabric. This is just to make it look straight and brand new. After I got towards the end of the fabric, I went ahead and just gave it a tug, and I used my E6000 adhesive to connect the fabric together. For the next part, this is probably the trickiest part of the build. We want to keep the outer layer of our fabric, but we want to try to remove as much as possible fabric that's inside. I went ahead and used an X-Acto blade and a pair of scissors to help remove the inside layer of the fabric. Before you do any cutting, please make sure you're wearing a pair of safety gloves and don't do what I did in this video, because you could really hurt yourself. Once I finished removing the inner layer of the fabric, I went ahead and took some scissors and trimmed off some of the outer layer. We'll be folding the fabric onto the bottom part of our quiver and using the E6000 adhesive. Once I let the adhesive dry for the bottom, I went ahead and did the same process for the top, but made it a little different. This end here is where we're going to be sliding our arrows in. At this point, we should have a good layer of fabric wrapped around our base for our quiver, but this is something that I did personally. I just went ahead and made a cardboard end for our bottom. I was concerned that the crafting foam might not be enough, so I just went ahead and added this really strong cardboard to it. I went ahead and threw in some electrical tape to help give it that support, and it just came out really good. At this point of the build, we should already have a quiver already finished, but knowing me, I like to add in a few features. Throughout the rest of this tutorial build, I'm just going to show you how I designed it. I used craft foam and I used my 3D printer to print me out my arrowhead. Crafting foam is definitely a good way to add in some shape and some feature design into the quiver. Just keep doing the same process as adding the fabric over to the crafting foam and gluing it onto the quiver. I really hope you all enjoyed this tutorial build. I had a lot of fun making it, especially putting to good use into archery. My 2026 resolution was to go out more, and I really love going out to the archery range. It's a lot of fun. It's just down the road from where I work, and there's a trail full of targets around the property. And I'm really looking forward to putting this quiver into good use. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. I've made a quiver and it's perfect. First shot of the year, definitely need some practice. I was aiming for the center right here with these more carbon fiber ones. For some reason, they just aimed a little low. These are homemade arrows that I've made. And they don't even have tips on them, but for some reason, they're a little effective. I was aiming for this. I was aiming for that. I was trying to go for that, but for some reason, it aimed right there. And lost that guy. I tried to aim for that one. But it still looked pretty cool, though. This here is the quiver. It is definitely something very unique. I really loved how this thing came out. It actually came out better than what I expected. Just started off becoming like a really fancy design quiver, but then it got really tactical. I put on this little elastic band, looped it around the quiver in case if I want to put like some sort of water bottle or I had to carry something. That's what these O-rings are for. And on the end right here, when I carry a sleeping bag, I'll just take some paracord. This can be the same situation right here. So in case if I ran out of arrows and I needed something to help protect myself, I got this really cool big O-ring that's going to carry a crowbar, an axe, or a melee weapon of some kind. And that melee weapon could actually connect towards the elastic band right here. When I was cooking up with the ideas, I got real serious. I went ahead and made this really fancy strap. I used this piece with my 3D printer, and I went ahead and made a bow carry-on, because the whole purpose of this quiver is that I could carry arrows and bolts. I ran out of bolts for the crossbow. Then I can go ahead and I can just pull out the recurve bow. This gets attached to, I can use the arrows, I can use the bow, I can use the melee weapon, I could use whatever backups that I have on this quiver. That's when I went ahead and pulled out this very old harness that I've had since I was 13. It used to be a military green. I just went ahead and took some black spray paint. Probably not the best idea, but you know, sacrifices are to be made. It's definitely one of my favorite builds. Remember to keep on surviving, and I will see you in the next one. Undead out.